One of the first consequences of the new hybrid paradigm of smart learning is the fact that the educational process can no longer be limited simply to what happens in the classroom, but has the opportunity and the drive and absolutely must include the entire process that leads to learning outcomes. In this scenario, it no longer makes sense to talk about lectures or exercises as something that we, as teachers, have to take care of, and instead about studying, practice, and review as matters that concern only the student. Precisely for this reason, we have called the method Smart Learning Design 25, because we refer to the 25 hours that, in our academic system, define the total workload that a student of average ability should dedicate to earn one university educational credit. We know, depending on the field of study and academic traditions, each credit requires a teaching activity offering by the instructor that accounts for a percentage that is quite variable, ranging between 25% and 50% of the total workload required of the student. We're talking about a number which varies across different schools, between 6 and 12 hours in the classroom, out of a total of 25 hours of workload for each credit. At the Politecnico di Milano, for example, we have 10 hours of lectures or exercises in the classroom for each credit. What does smart learning design allow us to do? It helps us to break down the complexity of the entire learning process, that is literally the one made up of the 25 hours of student workload per credit, into its constituent elements, the ones that we often refer to as specific learning events, and then reconnect them in a more systemic way, as the learning process actually is indeed, in a context that is hybrid from every point of view, synchronous and asynchronous, individual and collaborative, physical and digital, autonomous and guided, ordinary and assessed. You can see there are truly many dimensions. To facilitate the management of integration among the various learning events, Smart Learning Design proposes the use of a visual framework, which draws inspiration from what was developed in 2014 by Clive Young and Natasha Perovic for the ABC method from UCL. However, we propose an evolution of it specifically designed for the hybrid dimension, which allows learning events to be distributed either in the classroom or online, choosing between synchronous or asynchronous modes throughout all the weeks that make up the academic semester, or leaving it to the student's independent management. All of this while always maintaining a synoptic view of the entire project, which allows for highlighting and evaluating distributions and relationships. The intersection between the variable of time and that of the space in which the learning event takes place further specifies it by placing it within different educational scenarios, starting with the in-person one, where physical presence is required in the classroom, in the laboratory, or in a place, a physical location such as a museum or perhaps a factory. Then expanding to the extended classroom, where learning events take place in a physical classroom that is also connected with groups of students who may be remote. And then moving on to the dimension online and synchronous. Like in online seminars, webinars, where everyone participates at the same time, and to the asynchronous online dimension, as in the experience of this MOOC, where each of you has chosen when to watch the videos and access the materials. Up to the autonomous mode, where learning events are placed over which the instructor wants to grant complete organizational freedom to the student, both in terms of time and location. The Smart Learning Design 25, after encouraging instructors to clearly identify which learning events they consider essential for achieving the learning outcomes, suggests trying to estimate their relative weight in terms of the estimated time required for their completion, thus defining for each event the number of hours and its placement within the timeline of the learning experience, from the first to the last week of the course, or even after the course has ended. The definition of time becomes the key element in reconstructing the system because it allows us to connect the various learning events with a very simple logic of inverse proportionality, since the total time defined for the learning experience cannot be exceeded. W have 25 hours for each CFU university credit. If one event increases in terms of time occupied, another must necessarily decrease. For example, if I increase the hours of low interactivity frontal lectures, I must necessarily reduce other events such as discussion or practical application, and vice versa. Each learning event can also be placed within the experience of the student as an individual moment in which any relational dimension is only with the teacher, or as collaborative, where the event takes place in strong interaction with peers, thus offering a more favorable motivational context, greater opportunities for the development of so-called soft skills, communication skills, collaborative, organizational, and critical and creative thinking skills. Finally, we have the topic of learning assessment. That is, those moments when we try to closely observe the quality, breadth, and depth in detail of the learning that has been achieved. Now, this moment is not presented as something separate, as something unrelated to the learning process, but is perfectly integrated. That is, the SLD25 method suggests identifying which learning events can be subject to assessment, both in terms of formative assessment, informal evaluation providing feedback to the student on their progress, and summative assessment, meaning formal evaluation that assesses the degree to which learning outcomes have been achieved and contributes to the official evaluation. In this way, the teacher is actually encouraged, pushed to integrate into the process of assessment all learning events, not just classic moments of production and application, as usually happen in exams where students are asked to complete an exercise, to present a project, or to answer questions.